Well, welcome, Kenyon cohort. It's great to see you again. Today, we will be talking about CX design, but we have a very special guest for you first. I'd like to introduce you to Barbie Fink. She is the chairperson of the board of the CXPA, the author of the exam that you're studying for, and so much more. So Barbie is going to share some great insights with you. So this is really a special opportunity. So Barbie, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and your background, and then take it away?
Good. Thank you, Anne. So, hi, everyone. And I'll just briefly introduce myself before I'll share the topic that we'll be talking about today. So I'm Barbie Fink. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, which is on the eastern part of the United States, and then moved to the Pacific Northwest, where I lived for 33 years. And now I live in the snowy state of Minnesota, which is kind of in the northern Midwest of the United States. I worked for Adobe for 26 and a half years, starting in what really was traditionally a call center kind of job, but then moved into customer experience, and I'll share more about that with you. I retired a couple of years ago, and now I spend my time volunteering, working with people really around the world as a mentor through the work that I do for the CXPA. I will end my term as the chair of the board for the CXPA at the end of this month, and will continue to remain on the board for another year as the immediate past chair. And I'm really, really happy to be here with all of you. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And this is really more of a conversation than it is a presentation. So I would love this to be as interactive as possible. And if you don't mind typing in the chat pod just a brief answer to the question, what brought you to the discipline of customer experience? What got you interested in it? What inspired you to pursue a career in customer experience? What made you think about customer experience in the work that you do? And I would love to see a couple of responses to that. And everyone is quiet, but I see one answer here. So inspired by the role CX plays in business survival. Yes, that is really, really critical, because the connection that we have to customers, the work that we do with customers, helps businesses to be successful and helps them to survive long term. Anne was a waiter for 8 years, and when she learned about CX, she realized she had been doing it for a long time. I have a similar experience, Anne. Let's see. Azra says customer experience is the core of every business. Absolutely true. Businesses can't be successful without consideration for what customer needs are and for what their business intents are in terms of the way that they do work with them. Susan says that she thinks it's the realization that customers and staff are critical for any business success. You know, I love seeing anything that connects people together, and customers and staff are both critical. I don't about employee experience. And Sue says a desire to improve the customer experience in business improvement. Absolutely. Anytime we are looking at continuous improvement, no matter what it is that we're doing, then it really helps not just the experiences that our customers have, but also the business itself. And then Lillian shares that she was literally thrown into it and then got to like it. Okay, thank you for sharing all of that. The next thing that I would love for you to think about, and also note in the chat pod, and everybody needs to do this. So think about the characteristics that make you who you are as a human being. And I'd like to have you type one meaningful word in the chat pod that describes you. And I will share my word. And I see the word empathetic. My word is kindness. I see empathy. Awesome word. I see another kindness, yes, and empathy. Anybody can say empathy if you want. That might be your word, and that is an okay word to think about when you think about yourself. Some words that I've seen in the past are curious and tenacious, and I see doer from Ezra. That's awesome. But I want everybody here to put just one word. I see tenacious, yes. Okay, so if you haven't typed a word yet, make sure you do that as I continue talking. I'm going to share my personal story of customer experience, which starts really when I was 5 years old. So I'm going to go all the way back to when I was a young child. And I am really fortunate in many ways to have a brother who was autistic. It was challenging. He was severely autistic. He never learned how to talk. He would sometimes in public have tantrums. He never really knew how to engage in the world around him. And as his older sister, I really believed that it was my job to keep him calm, to see the world through his eyes so that I understood his experience, to watch the way that he engaged and interacted with the world around him, to find ways of identifying the things that would keep him on a level ground, to keep him happy and calm and okay in the world. So that really is how I learned empathy. My brother is the person who taught me empathy because it allowed me to find ways of putting myself in his shoes and understanding his experience and following his lead so that I knew what he needed and where he was going to go. And when I trace my life back to that point in time, everything that I did from there on led back to this learning and this ability to put myself in someone else's shoes and to understand the world through their experiences. So as I grew up, I went to school, I went to college, I worked in a grocery store for a while. I interacted with customers in retail for a while and really enjoyed all of those experiences. When I moved to Seattle, Washington, I worked with abused and neglected kids for about 5 years and with their families. And it really was the same thing. They were in a place where they were having challenges and difficulties in the world around them. And I put myself into their shoes so that I could understand their experiences. And what that did was it built trust of my understanding of their experiences, and also looking at not just the children that I was working with, but also with their families, with their parents, understanding the situations and the experiences that they all went through and being able to have empathy for them. When I left that job, I started working for a tiny company called Aldous. And Aldous, at the time, was really considered the founder of desktop publishing. They had a product called PageMaker. They had a few other products as well. And I started doing technical support. So I would spend my days, 7 hours a day on the phone, talking to customers who would contact us with problems that they had working with the software. And in doing that, it also was about understanding their experience as human beings, understanding that they were calling me because they had a problem, but that problem was because they needed to accomplish a larger goal. They needed to accomplish something in their lives for the work that they were doing in their lives personally, or for whatever it was that was important to them, using the software to accomplish that goal. And what I learned through that experience was that as human beings, our customers then were much larger than the problem that they would call me about during that contact. They had other goals. So I made it my business to understand what their goals were beyond the reason that they were calling me. When all this was acquired by Adobe back in 1993, I believe, I had then by that point moved into a management role, and I had a team of people who were supporting additional products. And I liked technical support a lot. I thought it was really fun. I was curious. I wanted to learn. Every single call that I took when I was on the phones was an opportunity to learn something new and remember something new. My whole experience as a manager was about helping the people on my team understand the broader importance of customers and what their needs were. And everything that we did was about continuous improvement. As I worked as a manager in technical support, I suddenly had this kind of crazy opportunity that I wasn't really prepared for, to manage all of support for the Americas. So customer service and technical support for North America and for Latin America. And in doing that, I did a ton of work with vendors, and I worked with the lead to put together the contracts that we needed to have in place, to make sure that the budget was on track, to make sure that our vendors had an understanding of customer needs and an understanding of customers as human beings, and also a connection to Adobe as a company. So often vendors don't necessarily have that kind of connection, and it makes all of the difference in the world. So that was an important part of what I did. And as Adobe started outsourcing more and more of the business, I had an opportunity to either find a new job, which I didn't really want to do at the time, or to move into knowledge management. So I chose the latter, and I was responsible for the support knowledge base for all of Adobe. And I set these lofty personal goals where I was going to increase the web resolution rate for customers so that they didn't have to contact us. And I completely failed in that goal. And as I was failing, and how painful that was for me, I started looking at the reasons why. I started looking at root cause analysis. I started looking at Six Sigma and Pareto charts, and really understanding what it was, what the reasons were, why customers were contacting support. And what I learned in that is that, and we did this, I pulled together a team of people, we read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of case notes and manually categorized all of those case notes to understand the root cause. And as we did that, what we learned was that the reason that customers were contacting us were for things that they would not be able to solve themselves on the web. They were contacting us because there was something wrong with their credit card or billing, or some connection to the product that support had no control over at all and support couldn't solve. Sometimes it was about what happened when they needed to upgrade. It was all of these different reasons that support really had almost nothing to do with, other than guiding customers through whatever back-end systems they needed to work with. And so at that point in time, I started working across the company and started working with legal and finance and product teams and marketing, and connecting with people all around the company to help them understand root cause and to start to look at solving problems. And so we pulled together cross-functional teams of people, and I pulled together a training team from outside of the company where people within the Six Sigma framework to look at understanding root cause and solving problems. And we did that for a while. And that was the point in time when I suddenly learned about customer experience. And it was exciting. I went to this conference in New York, and it was one of the very early conferences on customer experience. And I was engaged, and I had so many questions, and I was curious, and I felt like this was the thing. This was what people needed to understand. And the person who was in charge of that conference came up to me during one of the breaks and said, I love all the questions that you're asking. You're really, really engaged. What is it that you want to do? What is your goal? And I found myself saying out loud, I believe it is my personal objective to help people across the company understand what customer experience is all about, and to make sure that every decision that is made considers the customer in the outcome of that decision. And that was a really, really big statement. And at the time, I wasn't really a leader in the company. I was an individual contributor. I had a team of people, but I felt like I was pretty low on the totem pole within the company. But because I said that out loud, and because one of my core values is honesty, I felt like I had to make that true. And so that's what I did for the rest of my career. Probably the last 12 years that I was at Adobe was all about engaging with employees across the company to help them understand what customer experience was all about, to help them understand how they could make a difference in customer experience, to help them understand that they were connected to customers no matter what their job was, no matter what they did within the company, no matter whether they had a direct connection to customers or they did something in IT where some little switch had an impact on the overall experience of customers, where every single employee had some connection to some touch point that the customer experienced across their journey. And so that's what I took upon myself. And I had the luxury of really being able to create my own job, my own path, the thing that I wanted to do. And the reason for that was because there were business outcomes, real business outcomes from doing that. And I loved the work that I was doing. It was exciting, and I felt like I was making a personal difference. And we were able to build workshops and things that the company engaged in. One of the first things that we did was we built what was called the customer immersion experience, because all of what we were doing was from a grassroots effort. All of what we were doing and trying to roll this really, really big boulder uphill to be a catalyst and to create change. And so the customer immersion program was about engaging leaders in the company. First, our CEO and his team of people, and then all of the VPs and directors across the company. We took them through this experience where they put themselves in the shoes of customers, walked through the experiences, sat next to people who were handling contacts from customers, engaged directly and chat with customers. That was one of the things that made a huge difference in terms of creating this level of empathy across the company. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes as a catalyst, sometimes as someone who is pushing a boulder uphill, sometimes as the person who is shining a light on where there are challenges, where things need to be changed, you will face resistance. And sometimes that resistance can be really, really hard, but at the same time, it can be rewarding. When I retired from Adobe, one of the things that I knew that I wanted to continue doing was to stay connected to customer experience in some way. And it's because it's something that creates this ability for me to thrive in my life. Mentoring people, connecting to people, understanding their stories. I then actually went through a pretty significant year of health challenges, where at one point during that year, I believed that I had 6 months to a year left to live. And I am healthy, I am fine now. And it turns out that I have a condition that I might not have any challenges with. But that was the point that I really started thinking about, what is it in life that matters more than anything else to me. And everything changed at that point. And that's when I looked at, okay, the way that I personally can make a difference in the world around me is through those individual, direct, one-on-one connections that I have on a regular basis. And it's all about kindness. And as I started thinking about that, that word kindness came up again and again and again for me. It's that word for me that allows me to make a difference in what I do every single day. It's a core part of who I am. And that's why I asked all of you to think of one of the core words about who you are. Because that's the thing, that's the way, that's the piece that you can use to make a difference in everything that you do, in everything related to customer experience, which is this huge a difference in the world around you. So that's the story that I wanted to share with all of you. So I want you to go back to your word now and think about how that connects to you and to the work that you're doing in customer experience. And that's the word that becomes your why. The why for me is kindness. Why customer experience? It's because it gives me an opportunity to practice kindness in everything that I do. So for you, whatever word that came up, whatever word that you typed in the chat pod, that's your why. That's your deep connection to customer experience. And that is why you have the ability to make a difference in the world around you. So that's what I wanted to share. I also wanted to share a few things that I've learned. And this is really as I've reflected over the years. The first thing is do what you love. Finding customer experience for me, that was something that I loved. And being able to do what I loved in the work that I was doing was absolutely amazing. And it created this sense of peace and happiness for me in my job and created this full life that wasn't just about the work that I was doing, but was about the way that I practiced my job, the way that I practiced my life. It all connected. The second thing is to connect with people deeply. That's how we all make a difference in the way that we touch other human beings. Doing that is how you make a difference in the world around you. Another thing that I think is really, really critical is to help others see the positive difference that they can make in the world around them. As you do that, you are then also providing a gift to someone else so that they see that they're making a difference. And then finally, practice kindness at every opportunity. So I have a challenge for all of you as you stay connected to the team of people that you are with here, as you think about Anne and Sue and the rest of the team at CX University. Think about the way that you can look to each other for support, mentoring, and guidance. You have an opportunity to continue that connection with all of you together, and being able to look to each other for that support is a really, really positive thing that you can continue to take away from the gift that you have. All that I have to share. But I will give you a chance to ask any questions if you'd like. And if there are no questions, then I will also share, let's just connect. I'm on LinkedIn, you can find me there. And I'd be happy to have conversations with any of you at any point in time, whether that be directly in a Zoom meeting, in email, whatever. I'm happy to connect with anyone.
Barbie, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story. I did have a question related to, you mentioned the challenges of sort of running up against resistance. And I think we all face that. And, you know, it's something that we all kind of nod our heads and go, yeah, of course. But what are some key sort of takeaways or suggestions that you might have when we counter resistance? Because CX is both novel and can be scary to people in sort of established roles, and they don't want to stick their neck out. So I just wanted to get your perspective a little bit deeper on that.
So my best guidance on that is to separate yourself from your own CX agenda and think about every single person that you are engaging with as your customer. If you are working with someone internally within your organization, understand what their needs are, understand what their goals are first before you ever broach the subject of customer experience with them. Then think about the connections in terms of what they need and what their goals are to the agenda that you might have around customer experience, and find the connection points. Find the ways that you can help the people around you be successful in accomplishing their goals, and connect that to what customer experience is all about. And then make them the heroes. Make them the people that you shine a really, really positive light on. And that would be my best guidance on that.
Thank you so much, Barbie. That was really inspirational.
Thank you for inviting me, Sue.
And I think, you know, more and more CX is truly a global phenomenon. And so the fact that all of our students today are from Kenya, there's so much that still, so much positive impact that still remains to take place in the world as these ideas spread. Just knowing that, you know, for 20 plus years, a lot of us have been, you know, trying to break new ground, and hopefully the people entering CX now are benefiting from, you know, the elevation of, you know, the CXPA, the elevation of our field into something that is valued and even occasionally has a seat at the C-suite level.
Well, so I wish all of you inspiration and success and happiness and joy and kindness in everything that you do. We are coming to the end of the year here. So at the beginning of last year, what I did was I found a word that I wanted to bring with me throughout the year, and that word was connection. So I appreciate the connection to all of you today, the opportunity to have a chance to talk with you, and the opportunity to connect on LinkedIn or anyplace else in the future. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for taking the time.